And shame as an attachment wound affect how we are in relationships. That's what Tammy wrote and asked me about. So I wanted to respond to that really great question. What Tammy had said is, I felt overwhelming shame against logic when she had a divorce and there was complications after 45 years of marriage. We can all relate, right? When something breaks and falls apart, it affects us. And it's especially true if we have an underlying attachment wound. Now, what Tammy had said is she has been in therapy since then and began to realize that she had a history of neglect. And that is key to knowing what's going on. When we didn't get our fundamental needs met when we were young, it's going to be hard. We're not going to be oriented to it. We're going to expect almost unconsciously not have our needs met again in another relationship. And so we repeat that and repeat that. It's so painful. The healing of that happens when we begin to realize that shame is an attachment wound. The reason why we feel shame is because our normal natural response as an infant, as a child, is to reach for care, support, love, being seen and known, being experienced as special in the world, to have somebody guide and mentor us. These are fundamental needs that every human being, every child has. If we don't get those needs met because they're so native and natural in us, we experience it as shame. We feel like there's something wrong with me. I mean, it's normal. It's not even conscious, right? It's subcortical. We feel like it should be met because it's normal to have a need. It's normal to be met. But if we didn't get those needs met, and I went through that in the video, shame is an attachment wound, that's where we get really deep wounds, and they are imprinted on us so deeply, so long ago, and then we repeat them painfully so. Part of the healing is really understanding that shame is actually trying to point us in a different direction. Shame is a response to not having had our needs met. And so the response to that is, okay, I didn't get my needs met. What are my needs? What is so basic and natural that didn't get met? And how do I begin to orient in a different direction? Instead of being in the attachment protest of, I didn't get it and something's wrong with me, it begins to be like, okay, how do I move in a different direction? How do I begin to tolerate and expand my body, mind, and heart to receive something different? The first step for many people is around self-compassion. Realizing, oh my gosh, my body hurts. This is so painful. But it's also realizing it's painful because what is normal and natural didn't happen. That I didn't get my fundamental attachment needs met. So when I start putting those things together, there's a little bit of ease. Oh, like it's not my fault. There's not anything wrong with me that I didn't have my needs met. It's what happened. Painfully so. Like I should have had these needs met, but I didn't. And so when we start putting some of these pieces together, we begin to have a greater sense of ease and we start repatterning that painful imprint that's in there. When we value that shame is actually trying to say, you deserve this, you want this, of course you should have had this. This is normal that you should have had that. When we value that, it's like, oh, okay, this is normal. This is natural. Let me orient in a different way. And it is so much about flooding our body, mind, and heart with more positive experiences, even just a quiet or laughter or orienting toward joy in some way, so that we begin to soothe our body and flood our body with kindness, goodness, and compassion. So important to do that. And this happens especially more easily, sorry about the bad grammar there, when we learn to pause and slow down. You know, with shame, it's such a physiological disruption. It comes through like, it's a horrible. Instead of cringing, we can't help it. We do cringe. But to be able to be like, oh my God, I'm cringing. Let me just breathe. This isn't true. There isn't anything wrong with me. This is normal. Of course I need. And in that, when we begin to unpack it, realize, well, what is the need that's there? I need to be loved. I need to be seen. Those are normal. We value that. We recognize it, name it, reassure ourselves. Critical things. This idea of mirroring ourselves is important because you didn't get the mirroring. There wasn't anybody out there acknowledging there was a human being there, or that there was a psychological being inside of you that needed valuing. So when we start doing that within ourselves, we build this cycle, this loop inside that is very different from the original pattern and how it was imprinted. So this is how we train our body, mind, and heart to receive the moment-to-moment flow of goodness that's there. Even when we doubt that it's there, if we slow down time, we begin to see the little places where goodness is. And we begin to receive it and wash away the enormous sting that comes from shame. The rust around our heart begins to heal. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and responses, and let's keep this conversation going. Lots of love to you.